Welcome, everybody. So excited. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday here in San Francisco. I think it's probably 70 or 75. It's glorious and sunny where I am. Just a gorgeous day. How are you doing, Rozie?
It is not a gorgeous day in Seattle. It is cold, a little overcast. It's starting to warm up, but I had the heat on earlier. We've been calling it Ogtober. And I really
Well, but I'm glad that at least Seattle is getting more to typical Seattle weather and not this terrible heat that you had been having.
No. We'll take the heat. It's okay. We only get like 10 or 11 weeks of summer of like non-rainy weather all year. So we'll take it. I miss it. I want it. It's coming back. But like I said, I had the heat on this morning. And so I'm jealous of everyone everywhere else who's had a real summer. But life goes on. It's green. We're good. It's good.
Well, thank you so much for making time for this conversation. And thank you to everyone who's watching us, whether you're watching us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Please post a comment. Let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear how you are on this beautiful Monday, August 26th. And Rozie, I'm so excited to talk with you because this is our first time doing a live together since we co-facilitated the Interracial Sisterhood retreat.
Yep, I know. And I mean, so the retreat was great and we learned a lot and shared a lot and experienced a lot. But what's always going to be indelibly etched in my mind is as I was waiting for you to pick me up, to take me and Pauline, I believe, back to the airport to depart, I get a text from my sister saying, Biden's dropped out. And you drive up and I'm like, did you hear the news? And you were like, I just did. And that feels like it was the close of our interracial sisterhood retreat, but the opening of a new chapter that feels so incredibly, potentially life world shifting and joyful, and a real opportunity for us to put some of our values together, our collective values as women, as humans, trying to work across a lot of our divides, like that moment of like, put it all aside and let's get together because we got big things to do. And joy felt like such a an amazing, I don't know, serendipity. And so I'm always going to remember our retreat for the way it ended and opened up a new beginning.
Yes, it really felt like a whole shift, because I've been talking. I was one of those people that's like heads down. Biden's the candidate. We just got to rally around him. It's too risky to change. But then when they were talking about changing, I was like, they were immediately jumping over Kamala. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I'm like, how can they skip over her? Like, hello, if Biden's not it, it's her. Like, it has to be.
Well, not to go too deeply down this rabbit hole because that could become our whole conversation. Yeah. But I mean, there is, and this kind of links back to the purpose of our talk today. There is something about Black womanhood and like Black women as saviors and redeemers that makes us always the obvious choice. And also the choice that people are least excited about embracing. It's a really weird dichotomy, right? And it goes back, in my opinion, it goes back to the mammy stereotype. You're going to take care of everyone else but yourself, which we're not in that kind of world now, for sure, right? But you're going to take care of us, like how Drew Barrymore had said to her this summer, the nation needs a mamala right now, which was very offensive to a lot of Black women. It's like, no, Stacey Abrams was the end of all of that, right? But on the other hand, there's this idea of, which is the mammy is always, the person who doesn't exist as a real human being. They're just there to do a task for someone, and so they're not really real. They don't really have emotions. God forbid they aren't attractive or interesting in that way, right? They're the opposite of the Jezebel, right? If you look at the three kind of archetypes that Melissa Harris Perry writes about in her book Sister Citizen, the mammy, the Jezebel and the Sapphire. So let's put the Sapphire aside. That's like, Aunt Edna or Ethel, whatever her name was in Sanford and Son, right? So the Jezebel is like the hypersexualized Foxy Brown, and then the Mammy, like the silent, large provider, Da, 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 da. So when we look at women, Black women, we're like, oh, she's going to fix everything, but she doesn't really count as a human being or a woman. She only exists in this role to get this thing done for white monocultural society, right? And there was so much of that like cascading together in the moment of the potentiality of the Kamala Harris nomination. She's going to save us because she's the one, but we aren't really going to imagine that she can save us because we need Pete Buttigieg or whomever, I mean, all that swirl that was going around until Biden said she's the one. And that's kind of the problem. That's kind of the problem, Karen. That's kind of the situation we're in. Women of color, and I'm talking about me as a Black woman specifically, are supposed to solve everything, but at the same time, we don't have any real needs or reality of our own. Right. And so that's what we're confronting in this moment. And that's why I am so glad to see folks coming in on the chat. Welcome and thank you so much. That's why I feel such an imperative, not to use urgency, because that's a Tema Okun white supremacy culture no, but that's why I feel so much timeliness about what I've just launched and what I'm trying to do now. Because we are at a moment right now where the eyes are all back on Black women. Oh, you're the best. You're great. I'm so glad I have a Black friend. Oh, but let's do this right. Let's treat each of us right. Let's set ourselves up for long-term success. What does that look like to set ourselves up for long-term success? It looks like undoing a lot of our legacy actions and approaches, right, to the work. And so that is what I am all about in this moment.
Yes, and I am so excited that you have launched your course. And please share with us the name of the course, because I think it is so timely.
Okay, I will. It is called Allies, Advocates, Co-Conspirators, Friends, Sisters, a Playbook for Leading, Learning, and Liberation. And I will put the link in, of course, in a minute. But I think it's probably important that I talk about the why of the title and how it came to be, what I mean by this sort of this trajectory of ally, advocates, blah, blah, blah. I'm really, really tired of hearing people who are not in the group that they wish to ally with declaring themselves an ally. I think it is, and I say this all the time, allyship cannot be claimed, it must be conferred. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm no longer here to hear white women say to me, I'm your ally, or as an ally, no. Like as an aspirational ally, as a concerned citizen, as someone who wants to step in, this is what I think. I can say the same thing as in a cis het woman in a 29-year marriage to a man. I can say I'm an ally to my daughters and all of their queer friends in the whole world. I can say I'm an ally, but I'm not them. So what I want to say instead is I'm an advocate. And so that's like the main baseline of this thing. Advocacy means I recognize I have positional power, whatever that is, because across spectrums, we all do. I don't have a lot of positional power as a short, older, highly melanated Black woman, but I am straight. I have a big education. I have whatever, blah, blah. So I do have some privilege, right? I'm able-bodied at this time. Thank you, God and fates. So I leverage what I do have for the benefit of you, that person who doesn't have it. That's what an advocate is. And so that requires work. It requires decentering your default approach. It requires being humble. It requires willingness to give something up, a little bit of something, right? And you know me, I say that power is a gas. It's not power shifting, it's power expanding. It just keeps getting, it's infinite. So co-conspirator, what is that? Co-conspirator is you and I are in a thing together. We're going to get this thing done. We're going to try to be in cahoots and copacetic. We don't have to be besties, but we know we're here to do this higher purpose thing. Let's get on it. Let's do it. I think that's what this moment of this election is. We are co-conspirators in getting this ticket higher, elected. Friends is a different level. That's like you're my homie. We're good. We can hang out. And I feel like most of my relationships with white women, and really women across all things, are friends, right? Like, because I'm very relational and I love people and I really want to be in the space for real. So like friendship is good, but friendship is hard. Friendship requires, sometimes you don't agree, sometimes you got to say things that don't feel good, sometimes you might, like my very best friend in the whole world, Monica, and I had 2 periods of 2 years where we didn't talk to each other at all, right? Because that's what friendship is. It's a relationship. And now she's like my absolute ride or die. Sisters, right? Like I say in the course, those are the ones who hold your hand in labor, which my friend Elisa did. She's Jazzy's godmother. She was with me in labor. They sit with you when you ugly cry through a breakup. When I broke up with the first husband, I have some old friends, this is 35 years ago, right? I have some old friends who were there, and they're the ones who are going to speak at your memorial. And, one of my very closest friends died in April, and I went to the memorial and I saw her very, very dear friend from early childhood, who I know well as well, delivered the most beautiful eulogy. So that's what a sister is. It's like the depth. We use the word sister a lot in the parlance. I do it all the time. I call everyone sis. You and I called our retreat Interracial Sisterhood. And I think sisterhood as a concept is a really strong concept around which to organize an ally. But as a real lived thing, it is a holy space, and it is a very small privileged space. So what I'm trying to do with this course is to help white progressive women for the most part, but we all grew up in this system and we all have things to unlearn. I'm here to help us start to mark our own personal pathway towards going up a scale, and knowing that you might get stuck at one level, and that's okay if you're really, really in it for good. So it helps you be a better leader, right? Because people can use this in their business engagements. It helps support you as a lifelong learner, which I find groovy. I think a lot of people like to continue learning as they go through life. And it supports you in liberation and what we're going to build together to save this world while we still maybe have a chance. That's what the course is about. I want to thank Eileen Harity, who's on the call, because Eileen was my friend and co-survivor of a toxic system. We'll leave it right there. And she did a lot of the material, and I'm super grateful to you. So thank you very, very much. Just a big shout out.
Thank you so much for that, Rozie. And I think it is so important that in this time, I am being inundated, to volunteer phone bank. Will you door knock? Will you donate? Will you organize a house party? Will you this? Will you do? We're like inundated with busyness. But I think it is very important, if we learn anything from history, is that the way we relate with each other has to be our top priority. We can't just launch into, let's go door knock and do all this stuff together.
That. And so I was talking with someone today, right? So there are 10 chapters in the course, right? And they're all based on things that I have experienced and lived through, and like kept my mouth shut through, and tolerated. But like, I'm 61, I'm not here to like tolerate stuff anymore. We got to change things, right? So one of them is this idea of fascination, exoticism, and fetishization. And so I've been everybody's best Black friend, like for my entire life, right? Because I've grown up in mostly white spaces, right? And so people are like, you're so amazing. You're so cool. Blah, blah, blah. I want to know you. You're my really good Black friend, right? And there's a certain kind of fetishization in that. And it's like, ugh, do you really want to know my full story? Like the parts of me that you might not find so pleasant or funny or entertaining? And what I see, the more I get into this work, Karen, and this is why I know this course has something for everyone in this approach. It's really a way of living. We all do that to each other. We look at people as agents to help us burnish our own brand. Right? So you're like a super thought leader in this space of interracial relationships among women, right? And so everybody wants a piece of you too, because they're like, "Ooh, Karen's a go-getter. She's going to do that." And like we were talking in our pre-meeting here. What's it doing for you? How are all of these requests filling your cup? Right? Like the thing that my therapist said to me this morning, to have the courage to say to people, this thing you're asking is unhelpful for me right now, right? So how does this relate to what you just said? I believe, first of all, it said kind versus nice, which is also in the course. We've all been conditioned as women in America and in our society to be nice, right? But nice is not the same as kind. And if you want to know the difference, get the course and you'll get really deeply immersed in the chance to think about it. But because you and I are like relational people and we like to please people and make people happy, people see that and they're always asking for more from us, right? And that is not friendship. That is not anything. That's extraction, even though it's for a good cause, right? When it starts to become too much, it's like, oh, but then as women, we're like, oh, should we? Maybe we shouldn't. Then next thing you know, we're burned to a crisp.
Yeah.
So part of this more generative, non-extractive way of being with each other is to say to someone to say to you, Karen, you've been a super advocate for these political champions. And, here's an opportunity. Would you like to, do you have the bandwidth right now? Are you able to, do you want to help? Rather than, are you able to help? Of course you are, but do you want to? And your answer might be like, you know what, not this week, because school is starting and I got a high school, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. And we're just in this world that needs a lot of rethinking. And look, anyone who knows me even a little bit knows that I'm always full of ideas and opinions, but they're not just stuff that pops out of my head. This is like a lifetime of observing this and scanning the landscape with really, really judicious eyes, right? And so what I'm trying to do here now in this moment with this work, in this process, is to say to people, here's what I see, and I think you see it too. So now take some time and think about what that seeing means to you and how you're going. What we did in the retreat. We asked some serious questions to give people a chance to reflect upon it. We didn't have time over 3 days to give people a chance to really reflect in silence, in your intimate, knowing, self-building space where it's okay to say, I don't know the answer. I am still learning. I am a work in progress. I am imperfect. Right. So that's what I was hoping to do. I can't go out and, I can't, like you and I, we can't go convene every group of people in the world, and we can't go put ourselves everywhere, but we can create structures for people to get the best of what we think we have to put out there in a way that they can take it in on their own.
And we can learn from the mistakes of the past and not repeat them.
Yep. Exactly.
I see Diane Smith from the retreat is with us.
Diane.
Thank you so much for being here. Yay. Energy theft. Thank you, Diane. When you're at the end of the day and you're like, why do I feel so exhausted?
Exactly. It's all extraction. It's all the same hamster wheel of I don't know, of failure, of pain, of limit. We could go on and on, but anyway, that was some of the kind of requests you're referring to on the interpersonal level. Yeah, I mean, Katie, I think of one that I don't want to reply because it made me lose a couple of our legacy friends that we've known since we were babies. But I think one request is asking someone to guide you. Can you help explain why? Like I've just had that for my whole life, right? And I did, and I have, but now I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put it all in a course and let people like get some of the lessons right there, so I don't have to keep saying it again and again and again.
A course that people pay to take?
For real, for real. I am doing a little bit of like coaching with people now. And it's funny because it's like my friends who are like, Rozie, I have a sticky issue that I'm dealing with across a racial thing or an intergenerational thing or whatever. And I really want, and they're like, but I'm going to pay you because I understand you are now in this space of providing coaching and support. And so we're going to do that. And I'm like, thank you very much. Because a lifetime of doing it for free is really wearying. And yet I still do show up for my friends because I love my friends, you know? And so the idea is like, how do we move it out to a generalized practice in the world, right? Other thing, and I'll say this is real interesting. And then I want to get back to our main conversation. Another thing I was talking about with my therapist this morning is like all the folks who want to go out and do stuff and entertain and like, let's have lunch, let's have a drink. And I don't have the energy for it. Right. And again, it's like, what I need from you right now is support with this, leads for this, tactical things for this. I don't want to be in a space where I am expected to perform and entertain, because I don't always have the energy to perform and entertain. And you've known me as a jocular person who performs and entertains. Can I still be in your life if I'm just like a flat person with like, just with my head down trying to do my work and not an entertainer? That's a heavy one. That's really deep, but that's kind of also what's swirling around these days. And you and I've talked about this. It's a really fine line, right? Like as a convener, you were saying earlier, you love to bring people together. But then you also said that you like them then once they're together to start doing things on their own. Like you don't want to have to pour in every ounce of everything, right? Which was why we were a good compliment, because I didn't feel like convening, but I felt like pouring in a lot that people could then use to generate more from.
Yes. Also, as you were talking about the 10 steps in your continuum, I was thinking about that Tema Okun article of the ladder of anti-racist identity. And she talks about, you know, from denying racism exists to like being like the in deep community and deeply engaged in dismantling racism. But she says you can be at the highest level and then boom, it's not like you stay in one place always.
Well, one thing that's really important about that, and I think this is really a key thing for like my white progressive friends to understand, is we don't always want that. Like we don't always want to be, because it's a form of othering. Okay. When I was in 6th grade, I went to a classmate's house for lunch, and her mother was like, what would you like on your hamburger? Let me get this right. Swiss cheese or cheddar or Velveeta? And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't used to ordering food in my home. I ate whatever the hell my mother put out, you know? And I said, I don't know. She goes, oh, you have to tell me, because I won't say the girl's name. She's not on this call. Will be so happy to know that I gave you exactly what you wanted. And even at age 12, I was like, this is some weird ass performance where like they are performing like, Sally, save your goodness. Let's help the Black student feel, you know, it just didn't feel right to me. It felt really weird. Right. And so it was like, I felt even at that young age that I was being asked to be a bit player in someone's performance of goodness, of virtue. And that's what the whole performativism, niceism, and virtue. I mean, I'm not playing around because I can't anymore. That's what that whole thing is about. It's like, can you be messy with me? Can you be like, whoa, Rozie, I don't understand how to handle this issue. I just don't know. But I'm doing my best. And if I screw it up, you know that I tried, rather than help me figure out how to do it perfectly so I don't do it wrong. Or
say that again.
Help me. I don't know what I just said, but that.
Help me figure out how to do it perfectly so that I don't do it wrong. Help me execute my performance of being a ally.
So otherwise, be my mentor or my midwife into being perfect, mammy. For real, for real, for real. I'm sorry. I mean, right. And so, like, the more we can start to really understand that, the more we're going to be able to be in space with women across our different racial divides and be real, real. And that is for Black and brown women too. We perform things for, you know, in relation to the lies we've been told about each other. And also we perform the thing of like being the available agent for change. Let's just be people. Like, I'm happiest when I described being a sister as like the person you can take a vacation with, and you're drinking out of chipped mugs and sharing a bowl of popcorn, as opposed to come over to my house for my perfectly curated meal. That's still in a level of like separation and distance. And I just want to have real, like, honest, like, I do, like, Katie, you know, we go back so far. We go back way before people were analyzing everything. We just were kids playing and hanging out and having a great time and sharing our secrets and growing and loving. Well, that's the only kind of relationships I really want with people. I don't want obsequious, you know, oh, let me serve you, Black woman, please. Because that's gross, because that doesn't feel real. Who wants to be in a position like that? And also, I absolutely don't want Rozie be the one that helps me demonstrate to the, like I said to someone, I am not your get out of racism free card. I'm just a person.
Racism free card. Oh my God.
I'm just a person.
Well, Rozie said, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah. Oh. You know, so it's funny because I'm like, you know, I'm promoting this course and I'm like, well, listen to what I have to say. But at the same time, in every single lesson at the end, I'm like, and what do you think about that? What did you agree with? What surprised you? What had you never considered? Right.
Yeah.
One of the chapters that I really loved was about the history, and the session is called "Hey friend, what's your cultural story?" And it's about the fact that, like, I have had several Filipina friends, like deep friends over my life, and I never learned anything about Filipina culture, history in our country, or even in their country, like never. And so it's like, well, how can I be like really good friends with you, like hang out in your home, meet your family, and know nothing about your past? What about whitewashing and assimilating to white culture, American culture, made that something that you didn't know, you didn't want to talk about, you didn't think important to share, I didn't know to ask? I don't think that's good. I don't think we should all be homogenized bots just walking through life like, ooh, doo, doo. I think I want to like go to the dance performance and have them tell me my grandmother did this dance and she told me about it. Because then we're getting into like, do you know what I mean? We're getting into like the core of who we are as people. And there's so many things that keep us from doing that.
Yes, I agree 1000%. And it's that deep relationship building that I think is so important. And it's interesting because, like, I love social media in so many ways. Like, for example, for the Interracial Sisterhood Retreat, so many people found out about it that I knew through social media. And I feel like we can start to do our whole social lives via social media, and we need to have that interpersonal time together, not just mediated through a social media lens.
Yeah, I mean that's really true. I'm not, but I also was saying this morning, I'm feeling more comfortable doing this and Zoom and phone calls than I am going out and seeing people right now. But that's because I just happen to be pretty low energy. I mean, I've been executing a lot of things, but you know, I also think part of the bigger picture is like we should all be able to show up however we want in the given moment that we are showing up, right? And so there's this piece, and you know, I mean, you're seeing this a lot in activist circles right now. There's this piece about performing a role. What if you just aren't up for performing the role that day? Can you just be like messy and like imperfect and unpolished? You know, I spend a lot of time talking about tone policing and stereotyping. And I also tie some of this back to the origins of white feminism in our culture, right? The suffragists, right? And so we all got to learn last week, those of us who watched the DNC, about Shirley Chisholm, right? And Barbara Jordan, and the great, 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 great Fannie Lou Hamer, right? And others who are less well known. There she is, yes. And the thing that I felt was so important about this is that all of those women that I just mentioned, they spoke in their true, authentic voice. They didn't have any other voice, right? But so many of us who were put as women of color or other cultures into these mainstream spaces are required to perform whiteness, right? And perform professionalism, right? And if you don't, woe onto you. And I would like for all women to dig into their basic history about feminism and being forced into a box of identity by the Victorian patriarchy of the late 18th and 19th century. And to think about how awful that felt, to be like, but I'm more than that. I am woman, hear me roar. And to take that fire and apply that fire to providing agency to women who don't look like you. To say, I want to wear my hair naturally today. Maybe tomorrow I'll have something else. And don't be like, ew, you changed your hair again. Or, ew, you can't really be president because you're Black. Or you've got to be president and save us because you're a Black woman. Or what do you think about Sha'Carri Richardson? I don't know, I don't know, what, or whatever. Or Asian person, AAPI, gigantic geographical, cultural, and socio-political historical framework. What do you think about what happened in India? Well, what does India have to do with China? What does that have to do with Tonga? What does that have to do with Japan? What does that have to do with Afghanistan? What does that have to do with Pakistan? These are like, stop forcing everyone into these like small convenient boxes of description and identification because that's what's easiest for you. Right? Like, it just, John, my husband, said to me the other day, Rozie, you're starting to get very angry. And I said, no, I'm not getting angry. I'm just getting really blunt because we don't have time to play around with like dancing around the issue. We just have to we have to see each other. We have to know each other. We have to understand each other. We have to love each other as fully realized human creatures and not this little thing we put in a box.
1,000%. And to understand, we are each individuals. Yes, we are an outcome of our cultural identity and our ethnicity and our lived experience and our gender and our sexuality and all of those things. But in the end, I am who I am, Karen Fleshman. I am not representative of all white women. I
mean, the ludicrous concept that you could be women who are not in white bodies or able, whatever intersection you want to look at, are often expected to be that. Who was it at the retreat? Michelle? Is it Michelle of Be Brave?
Yes.
Whose song we sang? She said in my small group that I was doing with the women of the global majority, she said, she quoted Skip Gates, who said there are 47 million African Americans. I think it's 56 now. But let's say 50, meet it in the middle, 52. There are 52 million Black Americans. That means there are 52 million different ways to be a Black American. How many people actually give that consideration on a given day? And you're very welcome. Jihi, I hope I'm pronouncing.
Jihi Lee is like my all-time favorite human. It's gonna be her birthday next week.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
Yeah, but no, I mean, but again, it's just like this lazy. I don't know if it's laziness, if it's convenience, if it's lack of exposure and thinking about it. At the beginning, when I talk about in the chapter, I think that's saying no to monoculture. I just, I built it the way I felt it. So I went on to Google and I did a search that was like, woman doing yoga. Every goddamn woman was a white woman, right? I'm so great. I mean, that means that was the origin of me creating Brave Sis Project as the journal. I wanted a journal, and every journal was like white women, Tony Robbins, or if it was for Black women, it was a super fancy cover and totally generic, bland, nothing insides. And I'm like, wait a minute. Don't I get there is the perpetual one. Thank you very kindly. Yes.
Order this journal.
Yeah, I still have 600 sitting in the garage and they're perpetual, so they work forever.
Yeah.
But this idea of like, we want full realization. So Karen, the outcome of regular sorry, I was looking at that quote. I got to
sorry. I'm
yes,
sorry.
Michelle, you're absolutely right. The outcome of my white progressive friends and white acting, white aligned, we're all living the same culture, not getting this message is that the Black and brown women will continue to retreat from you and build their own and exclude you. Right? So, I talk about this in the course as well. The story of the woman I know who says, I said, oh, let's have a meeting and let's call in Julia. That's a made up name. And this one was like, well, if you want to bring Julia, who is a white woman, we have to meet in my, in a coffee shop or, at a cafe, because I no longer allow white people into my office or home. And when I tell people that story, they laugh nervously because they never imagined such a ludicrous thing that a woman who has a business would have the agency to decide who she wants in her physical space or not. Right. But if she had been like, no, we have to meet because I don't let men in because men have toxic male energy or negative, everyone would have been like, okay, we understand. But the fact that this was a Black woman who had the audacity to say, I define my space like this, and that was such a mind blower. That's what, and I have to respect, call her Susanna's decision to do that, because it's Susanna's business, it's Susanna's life, it's Susanna's world. She should get to say what she wants. But if we get to a place where that becomes the norm, then we are becoming even more separated. And that is what the evil forces that we all know about want to do, GOP, MAGA, et cetera, keep us separated. Because the more we're separated, the more fractured and siloed we are. And we know, and this is the feminist, world-changing, radical activist belief at the core of me that people don't get to see very often because I keep it kind of hidden because folks can't usually deal with it. If we learn a way to unite for real and put all that mess aside, we're going to change this world, right? There's nothing there. We will get it done. And we're hoping we're going to get it done. Thank you, Michelle. We're hoping we're going to get it done in time for this election. Right? Yes. Like, look what the Dems did. They were like, I mean, yes, there was still contention and of course, understandable and justified. But for the most part, people like, we're calling in the football players. We got the cops coming on here. We got the country western people. We got the flag. We're just going to get this thing done. Yes. And I think we can do more of that as a society. But I'm sorry, I speak fluent white progressive women. They're just things that I would like you to know and to consider so that you can come into the space in a sustainable way.
And what a precious gift. What a gift to be able to take this course and to learn all of those things so that over the next 70 days, while white progressive women are doing everything under the sun, we are not burdening women of color to give us that advice. We can take this course. We can learn what to do or what not to do in these situations and apply it as we go along. That's going to make everything so much better for everyone. And to your point about the Black woman who does not want white women to enter her home, this is exactly why I created the Interracial Sisterhood Retreat, because I saw, there's women want and need spaces to come together. And there are spaces that are organized by white women that, for the most part, women of the global majority don't feel safe in, so they don't come. And then there's
Yeah, or
spaces
even not even feel safe, Karen. They don't want to be bothered.
they don't want to be bothered.
It's
Yes.
not about safety. I'm not like some shriveling violet. It's just
Yeah.
like I want, like I said, I want to have choice over what I decide to do with my time and my physical self and my free time and my money. I want to have choices too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the feedback I get from a lot of women of the global majority is that those spaces feel very transactional. They're very like, I'm in it for me, and what can I get out of this? But it's not, And then there's beautiful spaces convened by women of the global majority, where often they don't want white women to be in those spaces because
and that's okay. That's not
totally
reverse racism.
that
It's
is
just creating
totally okay.
it's just curating a space that is culturally, situationally, whatever it is, um similar, right? Like that's okay, because that who's that horrible man who that Bloom guy, like this is what he doesn't get. This is why he lives in darkness, right?
Edward Bloom.
Yeah. To create spaces that heal or that support or that succor or support is not a thing done in opposition to someone else. Like it is a thing done for the group to help itself. And if we were in a flat, equal kind of environment where Black people, Latinx people, women, disabled people, all the isms had full agency and equanimity all along, then you can hit me up with some this is racist and exclusionist. But we never were in a world like that. We've never been in a situation like that. So that is a false construct, and I wish people would clap back with that.
Yes.
When they say, instead of being like, when you said this, just say the truth. Women never had a fair shake. Black women never had their own thing. We couldn't vote. We always had to be in the corner. So we're creating a little tiny thing for us. That doesn't mean that we hate you. It doesn't mean that we don't want to be with you. I'm with you all the time. It just means in this moment, as part of my full spectrum of lived experience, I need and want and will create this. And that's okay, because you have all the Google yoga mat advertisements. You have the baseline, right? You have the monoculture, and that's cool. Sometimes we intersect, and that's cool too, but sometimes we don't, and that's cool too. And I say that too, like in relation to religious groups, right? Like I'm not going to go to a temple of any sort, Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish. I'm not going to go, and I might go if there's an event and I'm involved or whatever, but I'm not going to show up and be like, hey, I like you all so much that I've come to experience your culture. That would be ridiculous. I mean, people would be welcoming, I guess, but that's so performative and ridiculous. I might be like, let me read an article and better understand, and then have a little more emotional and cultural empathy and sympathy and understanding. But I'm not going to perform the act of putting myself in your world just to show that I'm a good person or I'm inclusive.
1,000%. I'm going to come and be a guest in your space and feel so grateful for the opportunity to observe and participate to the degree is appropriate for me to do that. But I'm not going to impose my ego, my needs onto you.
It's about ego. It's about ego. It's about ego. The monoculture, I talk about this too. The monoculture has created the myth of the beautiful white maiden in damsel in distress who needs to be protected and sheltered at every moment, right? And so we all play into that. That's where the nice versus kind comes in. We all play into, let's be nice, let's not say things that ruffle, and then you have wonderful people like Megan Rapinoe and others who are like, oh, hell no, I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be unapologetically me. And I love seeing that. And we need more of that. We need all of us to be able to do that.
I'm thinking I'm thinking of the Australian breakdancer.
Oh,
Like,
God, must we?
oh my God. And I'm gonna finally write about this because I was like, what does this remind me of? And I realized it reminded me of my dear, dear friend who's like a decade older than me. And we met because we had radio shows on the same station in Austin. She had this wonderful, she's an ethnomusicologist, and she had this wonderful world music show where she would play music from all over the world and educate so much about this music. And she was a specialist, she is a specialist in music of Mexico and of Mexican Americans. And she's what's called an applied ethnomusicologist, where like she would organize festivals. She would, help musicians get recordings. She would do all of these things in service to this art form that she studied and she dearly loved. She set up the New York City didn't have a mariachi program. She set up the first mariachi. She co-founded it with mariachis in New York City. But she would not like the idea that she would then put on a charro suit and jump on stage and start building like that is the furthest thing from her mind. Like she would never do something like it's just it's the ego to do something like that. It's just unbelievable.
Well, chapter 4, run away from exoticism, fascination, and fetishization. So I'll say to the folks who've been in my cohorts, this course is different. It takes the one cohort session, which was called the 10 Cardinal Sins of Failed Allyship, and it blows it up into a 30-hour program, right? That's what this is. But in that cohort, we do a course or a section called appropriation or appreciation. And so we look at things like, so Eminem is not appropriation. That's he's of the culture, right? But Katy Perry wearing a grill, that's appropriation, right? And we look at it and we talk about it. We talk about, there's a picture of Adele wearing Bantu knots and a Jamaican flag bra. She's not Jamaican. And Bantu knots, hairstyles are very sacred things in the culture. They have meaning. They have, so don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't do it, Kim Kardashian. Just don't do it, Bo Derek. Just don't. Go do something else. You can't have that, right? And so that's the thing with Ray Gun and people like that. You can't have everything. And I talk about this as well. There was a story I tell of a Native American Pueblo guy I used to work with when I lived in Santa Fe. We were homies. We talked about everything. We had a good time. It was beautiful. And then once in a while, I would ask him, and this is in the course, I would ask him something like, oh, so what are you doing this weekend? And he goes, oh, it's a feast day. I was like, oh, like, so you're going to go in the kiva, which is the sacred, you're going into the kiva. That's really great. And he got up and walked away. I think I've told you this story. He walked away from me. The conversation was over. And I, in the moment, because I knew enough about Pueblo culture that I was like, oh, right. They don't talk about their sacred activities and infrastructure with outsiders. Like they don't do that. So he was, and I was like, how could he go from being so down with me to just stepping away? It's because they don't do that. And that was on me to know. And also not to get mad, not to be butthurt, not to, Jesus, heaven forbid, start crying, not to be like, oh, he's so rude, I'll never be his friend. Just sit there with my discomfort and knowing that I went beyond what is culturally. I think Emily has taken over Eileen's computer, which she loves to do. Because there's a little note there that is like lots of symbols. And it wasn't my role to know. And I had to just be like, oh, there are things that I don't get to own. This is the lesson of this course. So now you've got one of the 10 that has been revealed to you, except do it anyway, because the learning is still pretty cool. I don't get to have everything. I don't get to know everything. I don't get answers to all my questions. I don't, because he's a full ass human being with his own world of stuff. And I butted against the boundaries of what is permissible. So I learned something. I learned to not get upset about it, but also not to walk in like expecting that I am owed everything just because I am in this position or whatever have you. And it wasn't like a diss on our friendship. It was just him saying, in my life, hi, James, in my life and in my space, I got to have this piece that belongs to me and not to you. Now, why is that so hard for us? Why is that so hard for my beloved progressive white women friends to understand? That there is a part of me that you just don't get. Just like there's a part of you that I would not dare to claim. Like if we're doing an equal playing field world, we can accept the ambiguity of that, but nothing in society sets us up to accept that ambiguity. And so what I've tried to do here, and I'm being really dead ass serious here, what I tried to do here is to reveal these things that may not be said, because a lot of Black and brown women are like, I ain't got time to go educate these people on this stuff. I'm tired. I've been anointed to do this work. It has been tapped on my shoulder to do it. So I'm doing it. And I'm saying to you, okay, I'm giving you this. Now you take it and do the work to figure out what it means to you and how you're going to manifest it.
It is a precious gift. Precious gift. Can you put the link?
Yes.
And we will also. So I just cannot emphasize again my white progressive women sisters. And I see you. I mean, we broke Zoom, right? With the number of people on the White Women for Kamala call. Okay. This is part of that work. Part of that work is changing the way we relate to Black women and to women of the global majority, and really to all women. Because let's also not turn into I'm a white woman who is down and I'm now gonna distance myself from my other white sisters and throw them under the bus.
That's why, white woman. Karen, that's why I don't even talk about DEI in this course, except at the beginning to say this is not DEI, and at the end to say this goes beyond DEI, right? I talk about navigating difference of race, culture, class, and ethnicity, and we must not forget class. And good on the Dems for showing finally that we're not sticking in this neoliberal bubble of like, oh, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you. Like they went there and they brought in the whole spectrum of what we need to be. The last thing I will say about that too is this then positions us to be better world citizens. It positions us to be more open-minded and inquisitive in how we deal with the big other, which are people from outside of our nation, which are people from the global South, which is a nomenclature many people reject now anyway, because it's Southern compared to what? I am I'm on the Advisory Council of Opportunity Collaboration, which you know I love, ocimpact.org, and I am the liaison, whatever, for JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. A third of our delegates are from the Global South and the African continent, right? They have so much to teach us. They are doing their stuff so much more than we even know how to do. We should be learning from them, because what they've done is that age-old thing of making something out of nothing and making it relevant to them, and then using the goodness of their post-colonial spectrum to make it great, to make it better than what we could have done. And we need to like have that same humility in how we approach philanthropy, development, humanitarianism, right? That is the part about not being retire tactic 6, retire the white savior approach. I have a whole cartoon series I've launched, but it's just on my computer called Sally Savior, right? And she's like, she means well, by golly, but she's not had her eyes open beyond her bubble.
Yes. And so much of this comes from experience and you know what I mean? Like lessons and staying in and having people point out the things that you're doing that are harmful. And instead of crying or departing or whatever, listening and actually transforming.
Yeah. And I think it's the start of a different way of being, you know. I mean, like, I hope, I really do hope, you know, in this moment that I can like pivot and convert this to what I do all the time, because it's what I feel the most called, apt, chosen to do, and also the best at doing, right? And so Sherry, thanks for saying, you know, you hear my voice in it. I can't be anyone else than me. I've tried. It doesn't work. I can only be me. And so I think in being a full, authentic, honest person like you do, we can convene more people around us who share that approach. We can get out of performativism. You know, tactic 10 was the hardest one to write. It was the hardest one to conceptualize, which is like not falling into the trap of over intellectualizing and cognitive distancing. But when I found the right approach for how I wanted to lay that out, it was like, but of course. And it all made sense. We are all, you know, we Brearley girls, right, Katie? We're always trained to think we were the smartest and the best, because we are. No, just kidding. We were very well educated. We were very privileged, right? But the opposite end of that is the people who read the 40,000 word New Yorker article and therefore think they've claimed allyship, you know. And back we go to the beginning of this conversation: decentering, being humble, being willing to admit humanity. It would really help us a lot.
Yeah.
So my ask to everyone watching is to definitely check out the link and share it, please. Because here's the deal. I'm getting groups now coming and saying, oh, we want to do this as a group. I've got facilitation for you, and I've got guides for you and support for you as a group. You can call me in, or you can do it on your own. I have a friend saying, oh, I want to get this to foundations, because Lord knows this work is intimate and it's really hard, but it can be done. And it would make such a difference, like boards and folks like that. You know, somebody said, oh, my bitch and stitch group, like we've been taught we want to have deeper conversations while we sit around. You know, I think there's something in there's learning in all this for everyone. And I can't thank you, Karen, for giving me a platform to discuss it with you. When you talk about your own thing, people are like, yeah, whatever. Let's start talking about her own thing. But the minute someone talks about it for you, they're like, ooh, let me pay attention, because and I'm just telling you, that's been my experience of the whole 5 years of doing Brave Sis Project, right? And I just need more eyes. I need more help, because I'm putting this out there in service to our shared humanity.
So everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us. Please share this course, take this course, mention it to your employer, mention it to your bitch and stitch group, whatever groups you are part of. This is the time. This is the time. Let's figure out how, because it's never going to come from on high, right? The powers that be are never going to be like, oh, women grow, transform, and unite. No, it's going to come from thousands of women deciding, I want better. I want peace. I want health. And I want safety, not just for me, but for all women, because our safety is dependent on each other.
I'm going to add to the post, this chat afterwards, a book I just read about in The Guardian this morning. I don't let me see if it will come up. It probably won't. No, I'm not going to be able to get it. Wait a minute. It was on Kindle. Let me see if I can get it. Oh my God, people, this is live and being real. The Shrinking Goddess, it is called.
Ooh.
And I can't wait till it comes out in October. And also, I put on my LinkedIn, if anyone follows me there, an article from Tom Hartman this morning. And basically, what both of these things are saying is, we were, as animal people who became people, we were they are to club each other and beat each other and like survive. So like the chimps, they beat the women chimps, and that's what they did. Like that's the animal kingdom. What differentiated us as humans, Tom Hartman wrote this morning, is that we learned words and we learned gossip. And so and then gossip, which is also a form of religion, right? We learned external controls over that, you know, animalistic impulse, right? That helped us stay together as a group, right? So that's one thing we learned. We unlearned how to be animals, frankly, and then we domesticated the animals, and now all the animals are our pets and we love them. And the guy hugs the big lion and everyone's like, oh, look at the man and the lion, right? And then in this book, The Shrinking Goddess, which you can't see here, this person is writing about how male patriarchy was so challenged by the female ability to procreate that they created a world of mythology to bring women down, including that Eve came from the rib of a man, right? Because they could not bear. So we have two fundamental impulses of the human condition: the animalistic, we're here to fight, and the patriarchal, the men are more important than women. We can like redefine that, because that is fundamentally not true. Wordy word, right? So this course, everything I'm trying to do in this moment in my life is focusing on bringing us all into a place of rethinking those norms. That's what I got to say.
Thank you, Rozie. Thank you,
Karen.
everyone.
Yes,
All
thanks,
these
folks.
beautiful commenters. Thank
Diane,
you.
you are a baller. You're out there doing this work
Yes.
in territory that is not as geographically blue and bubble like as where we're operating from. And I just want to give you so much thanks and appreciation. Katie, my long-term sister homie from childhood. Sherry, newer in my life, but still already an OG, and everyone else. Eileen, my sister in the trenches, man, and everyone else. And Karen, you especially, thank you for giving me the chance to chat with you again. It's always something I adore.
Yes,
And
yes. To be continued.
absolutely.
Many more. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great day out there. Bye.
My Simone Biles.